He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. Fly, my fraud. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This one's wife, as a narcissist, will invariably engage in behaviours which would have moral question marks and even questions about legality. After all, she wore some blood diamonds. It might not necessarily have been unlawful, but it was questionable that she ought to have done so. But she doesn't care, because all her narcissism is bothered about is that she looks good. There are people, of course, that have raised question marks over Nigeria paying for a visit from a pair of private nomarchs, when in actual fact it can ill afford to do so. There have been plenty of questions asked about the financial circumstances of the gruesome twosome in the United States vis-à-vis Archwell, and I know that there are other commentators who have undertaken a deep dive into the financial murkiness of these two and have demanded that they be held to account and that the IRS starts to take an interest in them. It's questionable to the extent that they are utilising Archwell as a vehicle to expense their activities and whether that's something that is lawful or not. It's often the case that many narcissists get caught out with the question of legality and illegality. It's why you find so many politicians are caught later having received a bung, cash for questions, that they've received some kind of inducement from a dodgy dictator, that they've been invited on an all-expenses trip by some oligarch who is causing problems in his local area. This is because the relevant narcissist is only interested in the assertion of control and the receipt of their residual benefit in the moment. They're not questioning, as a consequence of them not having a moral compass or having one that's so bent out of shape that it's effectively useless, whether they ought to be doing this or not. They either don't see there's anything wrong with the behaviour, or where if they recognise they could be questioned about it, they just ignore it. After all, rules don't apply to the narcissist. Conventions, procedures, obligations and rules, they're for the little people. The narcissist is allowed to do what they want. And this often results in the narcissist engaging in behaviour and fraternising with people that are of questionable provenance. At the time, nothing might necessarily be said, but as a consequence of investigative work by journalists and those that seek to hold those in power to account, they later find themselves facing questions as to why did you receive this money from this particular African dictator? Why was this payment made to your wife's account in relation to a business transaction involving a country which was embargoed? And it would appear that this one's wife and Harry have availed themselves of the hospitality of an organisation without fully thinking through the ramifications of doing so. As we know, this one's wife loves nothing more than a freebie, and she expects everybody else to pay. Harry does also, because he has grown up in an entitled environment. Thus, his expectation of other people paying for it is something that he's always experienced and doesn't understand anything really to the contrary. With this one's wife, it's driven by her narcissism. Thus, this is why they expect people to pay for their security. This is why they expect the United Kingdom to pay for their security, even though they don't spend much time here and are not working royals. It's why this one's wife couldn't understand why she wasn't allowed to keep the gifts that were sent to her when she was a working royal. But they're mine, I should be able to receive them. On this occasion, it transpires that whilst they were in Nigeria, they flew on something called Air Peace, and they were private charter flights. These obviously weren't paid for by them, and they accepted this hospitality, and indeed they were welcomed by Air Peace founder and CEO Alan Onyema. Let's have a look at them being warmly greeted by Mr. Onyema whilst an Air Peace aircraft moves in the background. Here comes the footage. Well, that all looked very cosy, didn't it? Shaking of the hands, big smiles from this one's wife. But who is Alan Onyema? Well, he hails from Mbozi in Nigeria. He studied law, he attended Nigerian law school, and he was called to the bar in 1989. He attended several schools, including Government College. He left Government College in 1984, having obtained his higher school certificate, and he was directly offered admission to read law at Nigeria's premier university, the University of Ibadan, in the same year. Apparently, it was in the University of Ibadan that his appetite for peace made him to lead a group of 9 other students to travel to the ancient city of Zaria to quell a raging religious and ethnic riot that claimed lives. As a result of the publicity he and his colleagues received on return to their campus, their enthusiasm grew, and this led to the formation of a group known as the Eminent Friends Group, a group formed with the objectives of promoting ethnic harmony amongst Nigeria's diverse ethnic nationalities and fighting the incidence of violence of all forms. Well, what a thoroughly decent person, huh? No wonder the bananatarians are so keen to fly in his jets and have their internal travel in Nigeria paid for by him. But hang on a second, what's this? In 2019, the US Department of Justice issued an indictment against Alan Onyema on the grounds of money laundering and bank fraud. He was accused of falsifying documents used for the purchase of airplanes for air peace and using those funds to purchase luxury cars and high-end shopping. He denies these allegations. In October 2022, his alleged co-conspirator pleaded guilty and was sentenced to a fine and 3 years probation. Onyema and the chief financial officer of Air Peace remain charged with 36 counts of criminality. Now, it's important to emphasise he's innocent until proven guilty and that he's charged with these counts of criminality, although his co-conspirator decided that it would be appropriate to plead guilty. But not such a good look, really, for this one's wife, given that she and Prince Harry like to portray themselves as whiter than white, a living saint and her ginger puppet, for them to be travelling on planes which quite possibly might have been purchased using the proceeds of money laundering and bank fraud. Oh dear. Not that this one's wife will care. All that matters to her is the residual benefit of free flights. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.